All right, let's talk about the Hebrew calendar for 2026. If you're trying to get a handle on the new moons and the appointed times for the year, well, you've come to the right place. We're going to build a really practical roadmap to give you some clarity.
So you'd think this would be simple, right? Just look up the dates and you're done. But it's not quite that easy. See, the first thing you have to realize is that there isn't just one single, universally agreed upon Hebrew calendar. So right out of the gate, you actually have to make a choice. And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you do this accurately? Our goal here is to cut through all that confusion and give you a clear, totally usable guide for the year ahead. And along the way, we'll explain why these different calendars even exist.
Which brings us right here, to a fork in the road. You've essentially got two totally different ways of thinking about how to build the calendar for the exact same year. Each one has its own logic, and as you'll see, its own results.
Okay, so this slide really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you've got the fixed, or rabbinic calendar. This thing is pure math. It's a predictable system you could have calculated centuries ago, and it's the one that most Jewish communities around the world use. But on the other side, you've got the observational calendar. This one is tied to what's happening in the real world, right now. You can't finalize it until someone in Israel physically sees that first sliver of the new moon, or checks the state of the barley crop. It's predictability versus real-time observation.
So, to give you a roadmap that you can actually use to plan your year, we're going to stick to the most common path. For the rest of this breakdown, we're going to focus only on the dates that come from the predictable, fixed calendar.
All right, let's get down to brass tacks. Here are the key dates you've been waiting for, the ones you'll need for your 2026 roadmap.
First things first, let's get our bearings. The year 2026 doesn't line up perfectly with just one Hebrew year. So the first part of the year, from January all the way to early September, that's actually the Hebrew year 5786. Then, once Rosh Hashanah kicks in, the calendar flips over to the year 5787.
Here we go. This is the start date for every single new month, what's known as Rosh Chodesh, for all of 2026. As you look through these, from Shvat in January down to Tevet in December, just remember, and this is super important, the Hebrew day begins at sunset. That means each new month officially kicks off on the evening of the date you see listed here. This gives you the exact start for every month of the year.
And now for the big ones, the major appointed times, or the Moedim. This table lays it all out for you, from Pesach, or Passover, in April, all the way through to Chanukah in December. Now, it's worth pointing out that these are the diaspora dates, which are for those living outside of Israel. Sometimes they can differ by about a day from how they're observed inside Israel. Think of this as your high-level guide to all the holy days of the year.
Okay, so you've got the dates, you can write them down, you're good to go. But if you're anything like me, you're probably asking, okay, but how? How can these dates be predicted so perfectly? So let's pop the hood and take a look at the machinery that makes this all tick.
I love this because it just nails it, doesn't it? It's one thing to just look up a date. It's a whole other level to actually grasp the system that produces that date. So for those of you who want to see how the gears turn, this next part is for you.
The whole fixed calendar really boils down to three core ideas. First, it's built on an incredibly precise calculation for how long a lunar month is. Second, it uses this brilliant 19-year cycle that cleverly adds an extra month every so often. That's the secret sauce that makes sure Passover always lands in the spring. And third, there's a complex set of postponement rules. These are basically practical adjustments to make sure you don't end up with, say, a major fast day like Yom Kippur falling immediately before or after the Sabbath.
19. This number. This is the magic key that holds the entire system together. It's the length of this master cycle that keeps the lunar months and the solar seasons in perfect harmony. Over 19 years, everything realigns almost perfectly, all thanks to adding a few leap months at just the right time. It's just an amazing piece of ancient engineering.
So now that we've seen the logic, the why behind the fixed calendar, let's bring it all back together. We started with a choice, right? We went down the predictable path, and now we can come back to that first decision, but this time with a whole lot more understanding.
Because now that you get the mechanics, the calculations, the cycles, the rules, it suddenly becomes crystal clear why people disagree on dates. Someone who is following an observational calendar, well, they're not using this system at all. They're literally waiting to see a sliver of a moon in the sky, and that might happen a day before or a day after what this calculated calendar predicts. So, when you boil it all down, these are the main options on the table. You've got the rabbinic fixed calendar that we've spent our time on, then there's the Karaite-style observational method. Some folks even use a calendar based on the astronomical conjunction. That's a whole other thing, different from the visible crescent. And of course, some people end up creating their own kind of hybrid system from all of these. And that leads us right back to you and our final question. We've given you the roadmap for the most common path. We've shown you the logic behind it, and we've pointed out the other trails that exist. So now, the choice is yours. As you get ready for 2026, which calendar system, which path makes the most sense for you? It's definitely something to think about.